so strap in, because today we are going deep on something pretty wild.
Yeah, buckle up.
We're talking about a second term for Donald Trump.
A second term.
Even though he lost in 2020.
Crazy.
I know, right? It's like something out of one of those political thriller movies, but
It really is.
that's the scenario in our source material.
I know.
So let's dive in.
I'll just do it.
What do you think? Second term for Trump after losing in 2020?
Well, it's definitely unprecedented.
That's unheard of.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it sets the stage for a very fascinating second term.
Fascinating, for sure.
Even the setting for this inauguration is unusual.
Oh, how so?
Freezing cold in D.C.
Oh, wow.
They've had to move it indoors.
Really?
First time since Reagan's second term back in '85.
Wow. So, okay, we've got this indoor inauguration.
Yeah.
President coming back for a non-consecutive term.
Absolutely.
What does all this tell us about the kind of second term we might actually see from Trump?
Well, right off the bat, I think it just underscores this theme of disruption that has really defined Trump's entire political career.
Disruption.
And it suggests that we're probably not going to see
Like a softer side?
softer or more traditional Trump this time around.
Right, right. And speaking of not wasting any time, our sources indicate that Trump is planning to hit the ground running with executive actions,
Oh, yeah.
especially when it comes to immigration.
Big focus.
He's making it clear that he is not here to play it safe.
No, he's not.
What do you think about that? Day one, executive actions.
Well, it seems like Trump is really aiming for that day one impact.
Uh-huh.
The sources specifically mention some potential actions on border enforcement, immigration restrictions, even reversing some of the policies put in place by the Biden administration.
Wow.
It's a clear signal of his priorities and his intention to really assert his agenda right away.
Okay, so let's dig into those potential immigration actions a little bit more.
Sure.
What kind of specifics are we talking about here?
Well, the sources point to a potential crackdown on illegal immigration,
Okay.
possibly by increasing border security and even enacting new restrictions on legal immigration.
Yeah.
These actions could be pretty significant,
Huge.
and they definitely align with Trump's previous focus on border security and immigration control.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because while these actions seem like
Right.
classic Trump, the political landscape has shifted dramatically since his first term.
Dramatically.
I'm wondering if those same tactics are going to resonate in the same way now.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How will the events of the past 4 years, the Biden presidency and these ongoing political divisions, influence the public's reaction to these policies?
Right.
It's a complex equation, and I think the answer might surprise us.
Okay, so immigration is definitely front and center.
Front and center.
But what other policy areas are likely to see some immediate action from a second-term Trump?
Well, the sources highlight energy policy, government reform, and national security as key areas where Trump might make some early moves.
Okay.
These areas align pretty closely with the pro-business agenda that he championed in his first term.
Now for a real head-scratcher,
Yeah.
TikTok.
Okay.
Remember all that talk about banning it
Oh, yeah, I do.
during Trump's first term?
Absolutely.
Well, according to our sources, the script has flipped.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Instead of a ban,
Okay.
it seems that Trump is now leaning towards a partnership model with TikTok.
Wow, so it's a pretty significant shift.
Huge.
And it really suggests that he's kind of reassessing his approach, maybe in response to some backlash from younger voters or due to the complexity of the national security concerns surrounding the app.
This is big for our listeners to consider.
I think so.
It really highlights how political strategy can evolve based on the changing landscape.
That's it.
You know, and the need to appeal to different demographics. It's
Especially.
not always about sticking to that hardline stance.
Right. What do you think?
I completely agree. The TikTok situation really shows that even the most seemingly fixed positions can shift when political realities and public opinion come into play.
For sure.
It's a real-world lesson in political maneuvering.
Speaking of controversial moves,
Yeah.
the sources are also indicating that Trump intends to issue pardons,
Pardons.
specifically for individuals convicted for their role in the January 6th Capitol insurrection.
This is a powder keg issue.
It is.
The potential pardons are very likely to spark intense debate and further polarize the nation.
This decision has the potential to create some serious shockwaves.
Absolutely.
What are the possible ramifications here, both politically and socially?
Well, we're talking about a scenario where Trump could be alienating moderate voters while simultaneously energizing his base.
Right.
The legal and ethical implications are huge, and there's a real risk of deepening the existing divisions in the country.
It's almost as if we're holding our breath collectively, waiting to see what a second-term Trump will say and do. I know that feeling.
Will this be a continuation of his previous rhetoric, or are we in for a totally different approach?
Well, if we look back at his 2017 inauguration speech, it was pretty heavy on those law and order themes.
Right.
And the need to make America great again.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprising to see him tap into that same energy again. The sources suggest we might see like a continuation of that America First rhetoric.
Okay.
With a focus on domestic issues and a strong stance against any perceived threats, both internal and external.
So we're potentially looking at like a mix of bold policy moves,
Yeah.
controversial pardons, a continuation of that fiery rhetoric, all against the backdrop of a nation that's more divided than ever.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It really is.
And it makes you wonder what those long-term consequences might be.
It does.
It raises questions about the future of American politics,
Absolutely.
the stability of our democratic institution. Trump's return to power after losing the 2020 election is a stark reminder of the deep divisions that exist in our society.
And let's not forget about Biden.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine attending the inauguration of the person who defeated you for the very office you held just 4 years ago?
Right?
It'd just be a surreal experience.
It's a testament to the peaceful transfer of power.
It is.
Even in these incredibly polarized times, but yeah. I'm sure it's not easy for Biden to watch as Trump takes back the presidency.
What do you think's going through Biden's mind as he witnesses this?
It's tough to speculate,
Yeah.
but I imagine there's like a mix of emotions there, disappointment,
Yeah.
perhaps a sense of unfinished business, and maybe even a bit of relief to be stepping away from such a turbulent political climate.
It really highlights the contrast between these two figures.
It does.
You have Biden, a seasoned politician who represents a more traditional approach to leadership.
Right.
And then you have Trump, the ultimate disruptor,
The
who seemed to thrive on challenging the status quo.
challenging the status quo.
And now we have Trump back for round two,
Round two.
facing a different set of challenges.
Absolutely.
And a political landscape that's been significantly altered by the events of the past few years.
That's right.
It's a political rematch
Yeah.
with even higher stakes.
Higher stakes for sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
The unprecedented nature of this second term, the potential for these immediate policy shifts and controversial actions, the deep divisions within the nation,
Yeah.
and the shadow of Biden's exit.
It feels like we're on the edge of a political earthquake.
It does, doesn't it?
And this is where things get really interesting for us as observers.
I agree.
We have a front row seat to a historic moment,
We do.
a chance to analyze those dynamics of power,
Right.
the impact of personality on politics, and the resilience of a nation tested by division.
It's almost like we're watching a live experiment unfold.
It is.
It's like a real-time test of the American political system. And the outcome is far from certain.
Precisely, and that unpredictability is what makes this so fascinating.
I think so too.
It forces us to question our assumptions, challenge our biases, and grapple with the complexities of a political landscape that is constantly shifting beneath our feet.
This is why we do these deep dives, right?
Exactly.
To peel back the layers, to get
Yes.
beyond the headlines, and to really try to understand the forces that are shaping our world.
Absolutely. And this particular deep dive, with its unprecedented circumstances and the potential for both triumph and turmoil, is one for the history books.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up this deep dive into,
Yay.
this truly bizarre scenario,
Yeah,
Trump's second non-consecutive term,
it's wild.
what are the big takeaways that our listeners should be thinking about?
I think the biggest one is just that, we're entering uncharted territory here.
Yeah.
There's no playbook for this.
Right.
How does a president who lost the popular vote and then came back 4 years later, how do they govern? Do they double down on what worked before?
Right.
Or try to adapt to this changed landscape?
It's almost like we're trying to predict a sequel
Yeah,
that no one asked for.
I like that.
Will it be a hit?
Right.
Will it be a flop? Or will it be so bizarre that we can't even classify it?
Exactly, and that's what makes it so compelling for the listener.
Yeah.
They're not just getting information, they're getting a glimpse into how history gets made.
Yeah.
You've got these personalities, the policies, the public,
Uh-huh.
all pushing and pulling, and we get to watch it unfold.
If our listener had to explain this situation to someone who had been living under a rock
Yeah.
What's the one-sentence summary?
I'd say America's decided to give reality TV another season, but this time the stakes are the future of the country.
I like that. And on that note, I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about.
Lots to ponder.
A second term for Trump, immediate policy shakeups, a nation on edge.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be a wild ride indeed. And the big question we're left with is this. How will this unprecedented second term reshape the American political landscape?
That's the question.
What role will the legacy of his first term and these intervening years play in shaping the outcome?
That's something for all of us to ponder as we watch this historical drama unfold.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Of course.
And we'll catch you next time.